If she chooses someone else, let her go. Those words might feel like a dagger to the chest draw, painful and deeply personal. It feels like rejection, like somehow you weren't enough. Like all the effort, time, and love you invested just vanished in a heartbeat. It's a punch to your pride and a shake to your sense of self. But hold on, don't spiral into doubt just yet. What if I told you this moment, the one that hurts so much right now, isn't your downfall but your awakening? What if her walking away is actually life's way of clearing the path for something better, for someone better? Sometimes the universe removes what no longer aligns with your deeper purpose. It's not punishment. It's a reset. A chance to come back home to yourself, to your values, to your stillness. When emotions swirl like a storm, the stoic man doesn't get swept away. He plants his feet. He stays rooted. He lets the storm pass, not because he's numb, but because he understands that peace is more powerful than panic. You are not being discarded. You're being redirected. What left wasn't meant to stay. Not every person who walks away is meant to be chased, and not every closed door is a tragedy. Sometimes it's a silent blessing in disguise. This is where the real strength begins. When you let go of chasing and grasping, you reclaim your power. You choose not to beg, not to compete, not to convince. You choose to observe, to respond instead of react. That's the kind of strength that can't be taken away. That's how you win, not by getting her back, but by standing tall. As the man who didn't fall apart when she left, you can't force someone to see your value. You can offer them loyalty, consistency, patience, and depth. But if they're not ready to receive it, they'll look past it. That's not your failure. That's their clarity. And while it might feel like you've lost something, the truth is, you've just been set free from something misaligned. This is where a stoic man separates himself from the masses. You don't beg for someone to come back. You don't try to outshine the choice she already made. You don't scramble to become more desirable or twist yourself into someone else. Instead, you step back not with bitterness, but with unwavering clarity that stillness is your power. The pain of her choosing someone else doesn't define you, it refines you. She didn't destroy you. She revealed a new path. One where you finally get to walk forward without wondering, hoping, or chasing. It's liberation disguised as loss. Think of it as the truth showing itself, unfiltered and undeniable. She has shown you where her heart is on now. You can finally act with eyes wide open. So many men stay stuck in the echo of what once was, hoping she'll realize her mistake. They hold on, hoping the story will rewrite itself. But that's not strength. That's self-abandonment. Waiting around, trying to prove your worth to someone who's already made their decision, that's how you lose yourself. A man grounded in stoic wisdom doesn't perform for love. He lives in alignment with it. He doesn't wait for external validation. He becomes validation through how he carries himself. He doesn't measure his worth by who chooses to stay. His worth is constant, unshaken, even in rejection. Remember what Epictetus said. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Rejection is not a reflection of lack. It's a fire that forges clarity. So take this pain and use it. Refine your standards. Redirect your focus. Clarify your mission. You didn't lose, you gained insight. You gained a version of yourself that no longer needs permission to rise. And as you grow, as you step deeper into your purpose, something quiet happens. While you're focused on building peace and becoming the man you were always meant to be, she might look back. She might wonder what she walked away from. But by then, you won't be waiting. You'll be far ahead. Not just in distance, but in depth, strength, and dignity. Because that's what stoic men do. They don't crumble under loss. They evolve through it. Life doesn't punish you, it prepares you. When she chose someone else, that moment wasn't meant to crush you. It was meant to shape you. Every no, every rejection, every door that closes isn't the universe turning against you. It's the universe pruning your path, trimming away what no longer fits where you're going. You see, a stoic man knows that rejection isn't the end of the road. It's the redirection toward a road better suited for his purpose. If she couldn't see the depth you brought, if she turned toward someone else, it doesn't mean you weren't worthy. it means she wasn't ready. And more importantly, it means that your journey is being protected from someone who wasn't meant to walk it with you. Let that sink in for a moment. Her decision is not a reflection of your inadequacy. It's a reflection of her alignment, or rather misalignment. The quicker you understand that, the faster you free yourself from unnecessary pain. You didn't lose a future, you were spared from building one on uncertain ground. And here's the truth most men miss. She's not breaking you, she's revealing you, revealing the parts of yourself that were waiting to rise through adversity. When you accept the loss with grace, you don't chase, you beg. You don't try to twist her decision into something you can control, you gain. Something far more valuable than her validation. You gain your freedom. You gain your truth. Think about how many men get stuck in the cycle of trying to prove their worth to someone who's already looking elsewhere. They wait, they hope, they silently suffer, giving away their power piece by piece. That's not love. That's erosion. A Stoic man draws the line. He doesn't negotiate his value, doesn't beg for affection. He doesn't stay where he isn't chosen. The ancient Stoics taught us that nothing outside our control should disturb our peace. You can't control her choices. You can only control your response. And if your response is silence, calm, and clarity, then you've already won. Because you've proven to yourself that your peace isn't for sale. Not even for love. So stand tall in the face of rejection.
Ow.
Don't see it as a dead end. See it as an unveiling, a chance to meet the strongest version of yourself. She may never realize what she walked away from, but by the time she does, you won't be waiting. You'll be thriving. That's not just recovery, that's reinvention. And that is the silent power of letting go with wisdom. So the next time you find yourself in that painful moment when she chooses someone else, walks away without warning, don't ask, why did she leave? Ask instead, what is this trying to teach me? Because that's where the transformation begins. You see, rejection, when processed with wisdom, becomes one of life's sharpest instruments for growth. It carves away illusion, strips off the masks, and leaves you with raw truth. The kind that hurts, yes, but also heals. Most men crumble under the weight of rejection because they assign it a meaning that breaks their spirit. They assume they weren't enough, weren't strong enough, charming enough, attractive enough. But the truth is, rejection isn't always about you being less. It's often about life giving you more. Every time you respond with strength instead of desperation, you forge a stronger version of yourself. Every time you choose clarity over chaos, silence over reaction, grounded presence over needy pursuit, you win. And that victory is not loud. It won't make headlines. But it will echo in your confidence, your direction, your peace. Especially when you gave her your loyalty, your time, and your best self. You stayed consistent. You showed up. You built a vision for both of you, and she still turned away. That moment of impact can make you question everything. Was I not enough? What did I miss? But stop right there. Her choice is not a final judgment on your worth. It's a mirror reflecting her capacity to recognize your value. And if she missed it, maybe she was never meant to carry it in the first place. A Stoic man doesn't seek validation from those who cannot see clearly. He doesn't compete with another man for affection. He doesn't fight to remain in someone else's story. He writes his own calmly, confidently, and with conviction. He understands that value isn't always visible to everyone, especially those who are still chasing sparkle over substance. What matters most is how you carry yourself. After the break, that's when your character is revealed. Will you fall into bitterness or rise with dignity? Will you chase or will you build? Because someone out there will see what she overlooked. It isn't. Not because you shouted louder, but because your quiet strength will speak volumes. And by then, you'll no longer care who walked away. You'll be too focused on the man you're becoming. That's your win. Eventually, she said she needed something else, someone else. And when that moment came, he didn't collapse. He didn't scream, plead, or make grand declarations. He didn't flood her phone with messages or try to prove he was better than whoever she had chosen. No. He simply breathed, thanked her for her honesty, and walked away. Not because he felt nothing, but because he chose peace over chaos. That's rare. That's power. It hurt. Of course it did. He had imagined a life with her, vacations, a home, maybe even children. But when her energy began to shift and the emotional connection began to fade, he didn't ignore the signs. He stayed grounded. That pain, as sharp as it was, didn't destroy him. It sharpened him. It was the fire that refined his focus. 6 months later, she was still watching his stories, still asking mutual friends about him. But by then, he no longer needed her curiosity. He didn't need to know if she missed him. Why? Because he had already reclaimed his direction. He had already stepped back into himself. That's what happens when you let go without drama. You protect your dignity in a world obsessed with noise and reaction. That quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to post, prove, or pleads. What separates the men who chase validation from the men who build value. Stop being an option and start becoming a standard. You begin to live in such a way that walking away from you becomes a regret others have to carry, not because you tried to make them feel it, but because your presence was irreplaceable. So yes, she saw a different future, and that's okay. Let her pursue it. You don't need to insert yourself into a narrative where you're no longer written in. A Stoic man doesn't resist truth. He accepts it, then transforms it. He doesn't fight for a seat at a table where he's no longer welcome. He builds his own. This isn't about revenge. It's about growth. It's about stepping into the strongest version of yourself without the weight of needing to be chosen. Was a chapter, not the whole book. Let her go with grace. Let her memory fade into the background as you rise forward. Because the man who accepts loss with clarity doesn't just move on, he levels up. And that right there is how you win. Without ever having to fight. When she walked away, especially if it was to be with someone else, it likely felt like a tidal wave crashing through everything you thought was secure. One moment you're building a shared vision of the future, and the next you're left standing, in silence, holding memories that no longer belong to anyone but you. It's disorienting, even heartbreaking. But here's what you need to remember. What left with her wasn't your worth. It was your illusion. That space she once occupied, that heavy silence that now surrounds you, is not a void to rush to fill. It's sacred ground. It's space for growth, for realignment, for return. This is your chance to reconnect with the man you were before you started overextending to meet someone else's expectations. The version of you that had focus, direction. Fire the man who didn't dilute his dreams just to keep the peace, Seneca said. It's not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. Don't waste this opportunity. Her absence is not just a loss, it's an invitation to rebuild, to sharpen your purpose, to double down on who you were becoming before you got distracted trying to be enough for someone who couldn't see your value. Emotional space, no matter how painful, is fertile ground for transformation. A Stoic man doesn't cling to what chooses to leave. He doesn't chase closure or beg for another chance. He doesn't define his worth by someone else's willingness. To stay, he breathes, he listens, steps into that stillness, and lets it speak to him. That's where the rebirth begins. Maybe before her, you trained daily. You pursued passions. You had boundaries, goals, ambition. But somewhere along the line, you made her the center. You adjusted your rhythm to hers, softened your edges, compromised your truth. Now's the time to take that energy back. Not in bitterness, but in clarity. Yes, it hurts. It's supposed to. You cared deeply. But pain is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of your humanity. The question is, what will you do with that pain? Let it drown you, or let it drive you? This is your chapter now. One where you're no longer living to be chosen, but living to become. A man who isn't distracted by who left, but focused on who he's becoming. That's the Stoic path. And it always leads forward. You don't have to keep showing up where you're no longer welcome. Your energy, your attention, your presence, your emotional investment, it isn't free. It's not something to be handed over repeatedly to someone who no longer values it. When she made the choice to turn away to pursue someone else, that was your signal. Not to fight harder, but to fall back. Your energy is your currency, just like your time. Once it's spent, you don't get it back. When you keep pouring into something that no longer pours back, you're left depleted, not empowered. That's not loyalty, that's self-neglect. Respecting her decision isn't a sign of weakness. It's a demonstration of your strength, your restraint, and your ability to choose dignity over desperation. Stoicism teaches us not to react emotionally to every shift in the wind. It teaches discernment. A Stoic man knows when to step back not out of apathy, but because his presence is valuable. He doesn't keep knocking on a door that's been shut. He doesn't chase ghosts or replay conversations trying to find the moment it all slipped away. Seneca once said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Every time you replay the past, what you could have done differently, what you wish she would have said, you reopen wounds that need time and space to heal. You amplify pain that could have already passed. So take a deep breath, acknowledge that this moment hurts, then reclaim your energy. Protect your peace. Refuse to let your emotional investment become a liability. Real strength is in knowing when to stop showing up. It's in redirecting that energy back into yourself, your passions, your goals, your growth. You deserve to be met with the same energy you give, and if that energy isn't returned, don't beg for it. Guard your light, hold your line. The man who moves forward without bitterness, who walks away without spectacle, is the one who commands the most respect, not from her, but from himself. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to prove her wrong. You only have to stay true to your value and let go of what no longer recognizes it. Because in that stillness and that quiet retreat from chaos, you create space for something greater. And more importantly, you create space for you. She was just a chapter, not the entire story. Her exit may have hurt, and you might have been tempted to keep flipping back, rereading the pages, wondering where the plot changed. But rereading doesn't rewrite, and longing doesn't lead. Stoic man knows that just because something was meaningful doesn't mean it's meant to last forever. This isn't the end of your book. It's the close of a chapter that taught you, shaped you, and prepared you for what's next. Don't hold on to a storyline that no longer serves your evolution. Turn the page not with bitterness, but with belief. Belief that there's more ahead, that the best pages are still unwritten, because they are. It's okay to feel the quiet ache, the kind that creeps in when the world around you goes still. That's natural. When someone you once shared so much with walks away, they don't just leave your life, they leave echoes. But her choice does not diminish your value. It simply reveals her limits. She couldn't see past a certain point in your journey, and that's not your fault. That's her capacity. What do you do now? You write forward? You live forward. Not for her, not for a fantasy, but for the man you're becoming, craving her return, craving closure, craving the version of her that only existed in selective memories. That's not clarity, it's captivity. Seneca put it perfectly. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Don't be poor in spirit, be rich in purpose. A Stoic man moves with vision, not desperation. He understands that the future isn't something to be begged for, it's something to be built. And as you keep building, something beautiful happens. You stop waiting, you stop comparing, you stop shrinking. And one day, without even noticing, you realize that the emptiness you left behind has been replaced with something far greater. Peace. She may look back, surprised by how far you've come. She may realize what she'll let go of. But by then you'll be deep into your next chapter, no longer needing her recognition to feel whole. That's the quiet triumph of moving forward with grace. So don't dwell on what was. Focus on what is, what's coming. Because you, my friend, are still writing. Your story is far from over. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't need to post vague quotes, send long texts, or prove anything to anyone. There's a deeper power in stillness, one that speaks volumes without a single word. When she chose someone else, that decision didn't require a reaction. It already spoke for itself. Your silence, your composure, your peace, that is your answer. Stillness isn't indifference. It's strength under control. It's choosing presence over performance. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that true power isn't found in noise, but in calm clarity. When someone underestimates your value, let your absence do the speaking. Let her feel what your presence once gave without trying to remind her. Contrast that. Echo is louder than anything you could say or post. It's tempting to react, to lash out, to make your pain visible. But the Stoic man knows better. He doesn't need to show the world he's hurting. He channels that energy inward, into growth, into discipline, into rebuilding. He doesn't perform grief for attention. He carries it with dignity. There was once a man who loved deeply. She left for someone else. He didn't spiral. He didn't beg or try to make her jealous. He simply stayed true to who he was before, during, and after her departure. That consistency, that calm resolve was what ultimately echoed back to her. Months later, she reached out. Not because he tried to bring her back, but because his stillness revealed everything she failed to recognize before. That's the kind of energy you hold when you walk with self-respect. You don't chase what chose to walk away. You don't compete with the man she picked. You simply keep becoming a man so grounded, so steady that no loss can shake his foundation. That's the kind of man who is remembered not for what he said, but for the quiet legacy he left behind. So if she goes, let her, but don't follow. Let her discover in time what she gave up. If she never does, that's fine too. Because the real win was never about her coming back. It was about you never abandoning yourself. That's Stoicism in motion. That's self-mastery in silence. You don't need to win her back. You need to win yourself back. That's the shift. That's the awakening. When she walked away, she thought she was leaving behind who you were, but she had no idea who you were about to become. Not out of revenge, not out of bitterness, but out of a deep decision to evolve beyond the pain. This isn't about her anymore. It's about your focus, your path, your quiet rise. Maybe she thought the grass was greener, that something or someone else would fulfill what you offered. Let her, that's her journey. But your journey? It's to rise above the need for validation. It's to grow so rooted in who you are that no rejection shakes your foundation. The man she couldn't keep isn't a fantasy. He's the version of you that chose growth over grief, power over pursuit. He's the man who no longer needs to be seen, heard, or chased by someone who couldn't appreciate him the first time. He's the man who now moves with purpose, not noise. Every step he takes is quieter, but heavier. Every word he speaks is fewer, but deeper. You're not here to prove anything. You're here to build, to become, to refine. And as you do, the contrast becomes undeniable. While she replays memories, you're rewriting your future. While she looks back with curiosity, you're moving forward with conviction. Stoicism reminds us, power lies in our response, not in the circumstances, but in how we choose to meet them. So when she made her decision, you didn't resist. You accepted. Because resistance to what's already happened is wasted energy. You redirected that energy inward, toward becoming unshakable. One day she might look through old photos, scroll past your name, or hear your laugh in a distant memory and feel the weight of what she let go. But by then, you'll be far beyond needing her recognition. You won't be the man she left. You'll be a man transformed by the very pain that could have broken you but didn't. That's what it means to rise. That's what it means to become the man she couldn't keep, not because you changed for her, but because you grew for yourself. This is your silent triumph, your legacy in motion. Letting her go isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's not giving up. It's choosing yourself. When someone walks away, especially for someone else, your first instinct may be to fight for them, to prove your worth. But the real strength, the kind that stays with you for life, is found in walking away with your head high and your heart intact. You don't win by clinging. You don't win by pleading. You win by releasing, because what's meant for you doesn't require begging. A Stoic man doesn't chase what turns its back on him. He doesn't lose himself trying to hold on to someone who's already let go. He steps into his stillness and lets the silence work on his behalf. Letting go is a decision of bold, quiet revolution. You're telling the world and yourself that you refuse to be reduced by rejection, that you know your peace is more valuable than their attention. The world is full of people who mistake chaos for passion, but not you. You've learned that peace is power. When you let her go, you create room. Room for growth. Room for alignment. Room for someone who won't make you question your worth. This isn't about pretending it doesn't hurt. Of course it hurts. You gave her your time, your love, your loyalty, but the pain isn't what breaks you. There's a quiet dignity in walking away without slamming doors, in choosing healing over drama, in holding on to your integrity even as your heart aches. That's what Stoicism teaches us, to lead our emotions, not be led by them, to feel deeply, but act wisely. The man who lets go without noise, without needing closure, without making a spectacle, he is rare, and that rarity becomes his strength. He doesn't demand apologies. He doesn't wait for her to realize what she lost. He already knows what he brings to the table, and he's no longer willing to sit where his value isn't seen. So let her go, fully, not with resentment, but with resolution. It's not to make her regret it, but to make space for something better. You're not walking away from love, you're walking toward self-respect. And that, my friend, is how you win. Quietly, powerfully, completely. She chose someone else. That's not the end of your story. It's the start of your awakening. While she was focused on someone new, you were quietly choosing yourself. Not out of pride, not to get back at her, but because deep down, you knew that your peace was too valuable to trade for someone who couldn't see your worth the first time. Letting her go wasn't a loss. It was your liberation. You stopped trying to rewrite a past that no longer fit, and instead, you began writing a future built on clarity, self-respect, and grounded presence. And as painful as it might have been, you realized something powerful. You don't need to be chosen to know that you're worthy. You win when you walk away with your dignity intact. You win when you stop chasing validation and start building your own sense of direction. A Stoic man doesn't demand love. He becomes love in how he carries himself, in how he chooses presence over performance, peace over proving. The pain of her departure, that ache you tried to suppress, it became fuel, not for revenge, but for renewal. You turned inward, strengthened your roots, reconnected with your purpose. While she looked elsewhere, you began rising steadily, silently, like the man you were always meant to become. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You didn't harden your heart. You deepened your standards. You didn't stop caring. You started caring more about yourself, your growth, and your future. That's what true strength looks like.
Ow.
So when the world asks, why didn't you fight for her? Your answer is simple, because I was too busy fighting for myself, for my peace, for my evolution. Letting her go didn't weaken you, it refined you, pulled away what was no longer aligned, and revealed a version of you she was never meant to keep. You're not standing in her shadow anymore. You're standing in your own light. You're not trying to be chosen, you're choosing. That's what she never expected. And that's the kind of man who no longer looks back because his future is too powerful to ignore. This isn't about getting even. It's about getting grounded. And from that place, nothing can shake you. You didn't just survive heartbreak. You transformed through it. It's what Stoicism teaches us. Adversity isn't an obstacle. It's an opportunity. And in the quiet aftermath of her departure, while others would have collapsed or begged for another chance, you chose to evolve. That choice makes all the difference. She may never fully realize what she walked away from, and that's okay. Because your growth was never meant to be validated by her return. It was always meant to be witnessed by your future. The moment she left, the moment she chose someone else, she unintentionally gave you a priceless gift. Space. Space to rebuild. Space to rediscover your standards. Space to rise without the weight of constantly needing to be enough for someone else. You stopped replaying the what-ifs. You stopped looking for answers in her silence. Instead, you started finding answers within yourself. A man doesn't become strong by having everything go his way. He becomes strong by enduring what didn't hand. Rising anyway. That's your power. That's your quiet victory. Letting go is hard, but holding on to someone who's no longer holding on to you, that's harder and more damaging. So you chose the harder right over the easier wrong. You let go, not because it didn't hurt, but because your peace was finally worth more than your pain. And that decision, simple, quiet, resolute, is how you win. You didn't post about it. You didn't plead for sympathy. Simply got to work on yourself, on your path, on your peace. And the man who chooses self-respect over self-pity becomes unforgettable. Because he no longer lives to be desired, he lives to be aligned. Now you're no longer haunted by the door she closed. You're focused on the doors you're building. And each step forward adds to a life she may one day glance back at, but only as a spectator, because she didn't lose the man who chased her. She lost the man who no longer needed to chase anything. You didn't break. You broke through. Sometimes letting go is the most powerful thing you can do. It's not giving up. It's choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. And when she chose someone else, when she made it clear her heart was no longer in it, you didn't chase. You didn't try to rewrite the past. You simply chose yourself. That's the beginning of becoming the man who doesn't just survive heartbreak, but rises through it. You're not waiting for her to come back. You're not sitting in silence hoping she sees your worth, because you already know your worth. You felt the sting of loss, but instead of letting it make you bitter, you let it make you better. Stoicism isn't about being numb. It's about being in control. You're not pretending that you don't feel anything. You're just refusing to let those feelings control your actions. That's the edge. That's the discipline. She may have expected you to crumble, to plead, to beg her to stay. But you didn't. You stood still, steady like a mountain in the storm, and something powerful happens when a man refuses to chase what's walking away. He sends a message, one that echoes louder than any words ever could. That message is this: I will not break myself to hold on to what's already gone. You began to rebuild, not to show her what she lost, but to become what you were always meant to be. Your time, your energy, your presence, they're not given away lightly anymore. Now, they go only to what aligns, only to what sees you clearly. She might remember you in fragments, in flashes of memory, in moments where she wonders why your silence speaks louder than her noise. But you've moved on, not just in body, but in spirit. You've risen above the drama, above the pain, and into your purpose. So let her watch. Let her wonder. That's not your burden to carry. Your only task now is to keep building, keep sharpening, keep becoming. Because the man who doesn't need to be chosen is often the one who ultimately becomes unforgettable. That's your power. That's your legacy. And it started the moment you chose to let her go without losing yourself. There's nothing louder than the silence of a man who's finally found his peace. You didn't post vague captions. You didn't chase after closure. You didn't try to compete with the man she chose. You simply stood still, and that stillness, that was your loudest answer. Stillness is often mistaken for indifference, but for the Stoic man, it's a sign of mastery. It's not that you didn't care, it's that you cared enough to walk away without resentment. It's that you knew your energy wasn't meant to be wasted trying to prove something to someone who'd already made their choice. There's strength in choosing not to react. Marcus Aurelius said, strength isn't in the noise, it's in the stillness. So while others shout, lash out, or spiral in confusion, you remain calm and shaken. She may have underestimated your silence, thinking it meant you didn't love her enough. But that silence was full of discipline, full of self-respect, full of wisdom. She walked away thinking she could find something better, maybe louder, maybe flashier. You didn't stop her. You didn't stand in her way, because you knew that someone who leaves icily was never built for the weight of your depth. You can't force someone to appreciate your value. You can remove yourself so they have to feel the absence of it. There was a man once deeply in love who got left behind, and instead of crumbling, he remained. He didn't block her. He didn't play games. He didn't collapse into bitterness. He simply carried on, calm, quiet, consistent. And months later, it was his silence, not his pleading, that echoed in her heart. She reached out not because he made her, because she finally realized what she walked away from. What Stoicism looks like in real life: you don't chase what turns away. You don't collapse to prove your worth. You stay true to your values and let time reveal everything else. Because eventually what left will see what it abandoned. And if it doesn't, so be it. Because you never let someone's departure define you. You let it refine you. Let your stillness speak. Let your absence become undeniable. Let your peace be the most powerful message of all. You didn't lose her, you found yourself. That's the shift most men miss. When she walked away, it wasn't a failure on your part, it was a turning point. A quiet signal from life that said, now, it's your time.
Not to chase her.
Not to fix what wasn't meant to stay, but to finally become the version of you that no longer needs validation from what walked away. She may have chosen someone else. She may have thought the grass was greener, the spark was stronger. But you didn't chase, you didn't beg, you simply evolved. And in doing so, you became the man she couldn't keep, not because you got even, but because you grew. You began showing up differently. Less noise, more depth. You started moving with purpose, not impulse. You didn't speak to be heard. You spoke when it mattered. You didn't chase closure, you created it within. And something powerful happened in that space. You stopped looking back. Stoicism teaches us that peace is found not in controlling others, but in mastering ourselves. So when she left, you didn't crumble, you stood up. Not louder, but taller. Not bitter, but better. That's how a man becomes unshakable, not through force, but through focus. She might scroll through your life one day. She might hear your name and feel that old tug of familiarity. But you won't be the same man she left. You'll be someone far ahead, so aligned, with his purpose that there's no space for reruns of a story that's already closed. You didn't just survive heartbreak, used it as the catalyst to level up. And that's something no one can take from you. It's not her, not the past, not even your own moments of doubt. So you now know the truth. Your value isn't tied to who stays. It's anchored in who you become when others leave. Let this be your reminder, so you don't have to prove anything to her or to anyone else. You only have to continue walking forward, quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. That's the legacy of a man who lets go with grace and grows without limits. That's how you win in the end. There's no need to shout to prove you've grown. You don't have to explain your journey to anyone, not even to her. Because when a man truly chooses peace, he no longer seeks permission to evolve. He simply rises, quietly and completely. She walked away, maybe without a second glance. Maybe she believed you'd be waiting, that you'd crumble, that you'd chase. But what she never expected was your calm, your silence, your refusal to play the emotional tug-of-war. And in that stillness, you made your most powerful move. You chose alignment over attachment. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering who you are. It means looking at the pain, acknowledging it, and deciding it won't define you. A stoic man doesn't avoid emotions. He faces them with eyes wide open and heart intact. He knows the difference between pain and purpose. One is temporary. The other is transformational. You didn't fold. You didn't collapse under the weight of rejection. You stood. And the world watched as you used your heartbreak as a foundation, not a finish line. While others sought comfort in distractions, you sought depth and discipline. While others replayed the past, you wrote your next chapter, one built on truth, not fantasy. That's why she may think of you. Not because you begged, not because you made a scene, but because your quiet evolution became undeniable. The man who once cared so deeply didn't disappear. He simply outgrew the space she was willing to meet him in. You didn't become colder. You became wiser. So if she ever wonders how you moved on, the answer is simple. You didn't move on to someone new. You moved deeper into yourself. Stopped living to be chosen and started living with intention. You no longer wait for validation. You live as proof of your own value. Let the world see it, not through your words, but through your walk, through your presence, through your purpose. Because the man who chooses growth over games always wins quietly, completely, and undeniably. That right there is your real victory. She thought you would wait. She thought your world would stop spinning. But while she was busy choosing someone else, you were quietly choosing yourself. Not out of spite, but out of strength. It's not to win her back, but to never lose yourself. Again, that moment when she turned away could have broken you. And for a while, maybe it did bend you. But it didn't define you, because instead of spiraling, you grounded yourself. You didn't chase after someone who walked out. You stood still, letting the silence speak louder than any final word could. Letting her go wasn't about erasing the memories. It was about no longer letting them control your future. It was about closing a chapter without burning the whole book. You realized you didn't need to rewrite what happened. You needed to start writing what comes next. You stopped asking, why wasn't I enough? And started asking, why did I ever think I had to prove my worth? That shift, subtle but powerful, is what separates the man who breaks from the man who builds. She may have expected tears. She may have imagined drama. But what she didn't expect was the unwavering clarity in your eyes. The silence, the stillness, the unapologetic peace. Because when you stop trying to win someone back, you start winning yourself back. You let go not with resentment, but with resolution. You understood that freedom doesn't come when someone chooses you. It comes when you no longer need them to. You stopped performing. You stopped shrinking. And you began standing in your as full presence. Now your life isn't built on who stayed, it's built on how you stood. And when she looks back, and she will, it won't be to reclaim what was lost. It will be to witness who you became without her. That's the twist. She thought leaving would leave you shattered. But instead it revealed the man who was always there, unshaken, unbreakable, undeniable. Let that be your truth. The man who never needed to be chosen to know he was already enough. This is how the story changes, not with rage, not with regret, but with quiet resilience. You didn't chase, you didn't plead. You didn't try to win her back with words. Instead, you let your evolution speak for itself. While she was focused on someone else, you were focused on becoming someone more grounded, more clear, more complete. You see, she thought she was leaving behind the man she knew. But the man she left isn't the man you are today. Because when you stopped waiting, you started rising. It's not for her attention, not to prove anything, but because you realized that you don't need to be chosen to know you're valuable. That value was always there. You just had to stop giving it away so easily. Letting her go didn't weaken you. It freed you from the loop of second-guessing, overthinking, overgiving, freed you from shrinking yourself to be more palatable, freed you from waiting on someone else's recognition to feel whole. You didn't lose love, you reclaimed self-respect. And that's the kind of shift no one can take from you. It's not that the pain disappeared, it's that you used it. You turned it into fuel, into purpose, into clarity. Now your silence holds more weight than any apology she never gave. Now your presence carries the depth of a man who's been broken, but never bowed. If she ever looks back, it won't be to find the man who begged. It'll be to search for the man who disappeared into purpose. And by then, you'll be far too focused on your future to pause for the past. Let her remember. Let her regret. That's her story to carry, yours. Yours is the story of how a man rose from rejection, not with noise, but with discipline. Out. With anger, but with alignment. You didn't crumble. You climbed. And that's how you turned heartbreak into legacy. That's how you win without ever needing to be seen winning.